That interaction between the tariffs, margins and consumer price tolerance is going to be really, really important over the next few months. How do you think it breaks?
Well, I've been spending the last 12 hours reading all the output of our economics team, Bruce Kasman, Mike Feroli's team, and Michael Semblist, and they all wind up in the same place, which is, as things stand now, we're headed to recession. And it's very clear that this is a tax on businesses and households. Yes, Bessing can talk about offsetting it with an extension of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, but right now a heavy tax has been applied to businesses and to households. Businesses have to decide how much they're going to absorb and how much they're going to pass through. The one thing they can plan on is that top line will come down. They're going to see a reduction of sales, their input costs will go up, and they're going to look at narrowing margins. And if their sales drop enough, they are going to have to lay people off. And of course, that will hit consumer confidence. So this is not good at all.
At the same time, Citigroup came out, as John mentioned earlier, and said if sustained, these tariffs could add an additional 1 percentage point to core inflation this year, bringing core inflation to 4%. There seems to be this feeling, with hard data not rolling over as quickly as the soft data, that the Fed is destined to be late and not cut rates in response to that expected recession. Do you agree?
I hate that line of thinking, and I'll tell you why. I feel like we're supposed to go back and dust off our Econ 101 books. And very clearly in there, it talks about the difference between demand pull, which is what we saw during COVID inflation, and cost push. And cost push inflation cripples businesses and households and ultimately pushes you into recession if it's bad enough. The Fed already told us a couple weeks ago that, yes, it's not pleasant to have this cost push inflation, but they'll look through that. They're more concerned about the downside. They're more concerned about the impact to employment. So I think they're, where's Binky when you need him? Year end is so far away. April 9th is so far away.
Did you enjoy that yesterday?
I love that. April 9th is so far away. A lot can happen. But if these policies stick for the next quarter or so, then you have to start pricing in the Fed brings down rates to 2.25, 2.5.
You might hate this line of reasoning, but a lot of people are entertaining it on Wall Street. And Morgan Stanley overnight actually took away their call for a June rate cut and looked at potentially no rate cuts for the remainder of this year, because this is a Fed that is coming off a highly inflationary moment. Mohamed El-Erian yesterday saying the same thing, that this is a different kind of moment given what we have just seen post-pandemic. At what point does the Fed not offset growth concerns, but juice inflation concerns on the other side?
This is a very different moment than what we went through during COVID. As I said, this is a tax that's applied to the system. Sure, if you're the Fed, you're not going to ignore that inflation is now cruising up above 3% to 4%. What you're going to look at is it temporary? I can't use transitory. Is it temporary, or is this the kind of thing that's going to lead to a wage price spiral? And for now, it doesn't feel like it will. It feels like you'll see a dramatic decline in consumption, and they will respond. And by the way, you go back to when the regional banking system was crashing, the Fed had every opportunity there to let the system wash out. Did they? No, they stepped in. So yeah, it looks like we're cruising to recession now unless things change, but both COVID and the regional banking crisis tell us you've got to watch the policy response. And the Fed and other central banks have a lot of dry powder.
They stepped in with support, as you know. They also hiked interest rates.
Yes, they did. But they created an enormous safety net around the entire system. My point is that, yes, you can model everything for recession. We don't know if there are going to be any negotiations over the next week.
True.
And if there aren't, then the Fed can bring rates down a lot.
Let's say they go to 2.5. Treasuries right now on 10s, just north of 4%. What kind of numbers have you got in mind across the curve?
If they're headed to 2.5, the market is going to front run that. You'll get down to 2%. I'm
on 10s or at the front end?
The whole thing.
The whole curve's coming down to 2.
Look, they only got to 4 3/8, and the whole curve went down to the low 3s, right? So the market will start pricing in that they'll go a lot lower. I'm not calling for that. I think there's a lot of room for negotiation. I think we'll see, some of these backed off. I don't think the administration wants to crash the economy. All I'm saying is, let's not forget, there are many potential policy responses. An extension of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act and hanging a lot more off of it is one, but central bank policy is another.